Carpe diem, a Jegulus fanfiction written by Els31 on AO3 and read by Heo Stories. Chapter 10. Regulus Black has a slutty waist. Um, so this chapter contains an explicit scene, so to say. I will be skipping over that, but if you want to read it yourself, yeah, it's there. Chapter 10. When the flat door opens behind him, James inclines his head backwards so his neck is stretched over the back of the sofa and eyes as Sirius stumbles in. The door closes behind him with a bang, his boots dragging on the floor as he moves to shrug off his leather jacket and slings it over the back of the sofa chair. "Morning," James greets, sitting up more so he can see as Sirius rounds the sofa. Sirius replies with a grunt before he's flopping down heavily across the sofa and James. His elbows jigs in sharply into James's thigh, but the shaggy-haired man doesn't show any remorse to James's yelp, instead sinking further into his human pillow with a sigh. After a moment he adds, "Morning." James huffs a laugh. Fantastic English, pads. Sirius doesn't reply. James gives him a minute, choosing to run his fingers through his best friend's hair instead. And Sirius doesn't speak or move from where he's draped over James's body. James asks, "You okay?" Sirius hums. He shifts his head up enough so James can see his face, his eyes closed. "Tired." "You look tired." James agrees, because he does. But James knows Sirius has been bouncing between the tattoo studio and Remus's place like a yo-yo for the last week. It's not a wonder he's exhausted. "How's Remus?" "He told me to leave." Sirius pouts, eyes still shut, apparently almost distracting him. "You working today?" "Yeah, they've got a huge wedding order coming, and they're super busy with these huge decorations, so Remus has gone to help his mum, despite the fact that he's worked the last 4 days anyways." "You're worried about him," James says, and it's not even a question. Sirius always worries about Remus, despite being together since they were 14, and Remus living with his condition long before. Sirius always worries. It takes Sirius a long time to let people in, to trust them and let them get close. But when he finally does, he really does give everyone his all. He's run himself into the ground, caring and looking out for people he loves before. He stayed up for nights on end, not sleeping a wink, because he's watching Remus after having a bad seizure to make sure he doesn't have another one. He spent countless hours of all times of the day sitting with Remus in A&E. When Peter's dad died, Sirius practically adopted Peter's younger siblings and helped them understand the realism of their father never coming home, and giving Peter and his mum space and time to grieve properly. Whenever one of them was sick, even with something as small as just a cold, Sirius would lay with them for days, watching films and getting them anything they needed while keeping them company. James remembers when he looked at Sirius when they just met, fresh meat in a huge London secondary school, and within a few weeks, James knew they were destined to be best friends. They're closer than brothers, all amplified when Sirius literally moved in with him when he was 16. James has always hated Sirius's family for the way they treated him, and when Sirius finally ran away from them, James and his Family welcomed them with open arms. James has known Sirius long enough to know that Sirius' worries about Remus isn't anything new, and while sometimes it becomes unreasonable and greatly annoys Remus, James understands. He understands that Sirius seems to have this need to look after people like he has never cared for, loved like he was never loved. He's so terrified of losing the people that showed him life wasn't meant to be like it was for him when he was growing up, that he almost became unbearable in his desperation to keep them all healthy and happy. I don't want him to make himself sick, Sirius replies. He had a bad seizure the other day, and I thought we were going to have to go back to the hospital again. His mum didn't want him to go to the shop, but he's so fucking stubborn about it. James hums, not stalling in running his hand through Sirius's hair. Remind you of anyone? What? Reminds me of a little artist friend I have who spends unhealthy hours at his art studio, also working himself sick to then skip the fundamental needs of life to take care of everybody else. James muses. Oh, and he's also a stubborn fuck. Fuck off, Sirius grumbles, sitting up. I'm being serious. All in the name, Pats. Sirius shrieks, punching James hard in the arm, glaring, Stop it! Mooney could be. Mooney is fine. James smiles softly. He's at work in a quiet flower shop with his mum, who has known and looked after him since he shot out of her vagina 25 years ago. Sirius grimaces. Gross. He's being looked after, Pats, James adds. If he's not being cared for by you, he's being looked after by his parents, or Peter, or me. He's never not been thought about. You're going to make yourself sick by worrying about this so much. And then who's going to fill your shoes when you're out of action? Sirius slumps in the feet, head flopping over the back of the sofa. I just worry. I know. James nudges him. You're allowed to worry, Pat, but Mooney is a big boy. He knows the science way better than you do. Not that you'd like to admit that. Sirius grunts at him. You're a very good boyfriend, Pats. James teases. Fuck off. Hey! James yelps. I was! You're taking the piss and it's not helping. It is helping because already you don't look as uptight. I'm not uptight. You are. Your forehead vein is doing that thing again, and you keep scrunching up your face. Keep it up much longer, and you'll have more wrinkles than that. I'm telling Mooney you said that. Go for it. He knows he's a DILF, even at 50. Prongs, you shouldn't say that about your dad. Are you disagreeing? Absolutely not. James smiles in triumph and relaxes back into the sofa. How's the piece going? Sirius whines loudly, running a hand over his face roughly. I hate it. I hate everything I'm producing at the moment. I can't get it right. Can't get it how I want. When's it due? End of January. You'll get it done. You always do, James offers softly. I've restarted 4 times now. Maybe wait till the end before you scrap it next time. James smirks. Trust the process and all that. Prongs, shut the fuck up. You can't even draw a stick man properly. Someone's touchy today. James pouts, jabbing his foot into Sirius's side. Stop being so touchy. Prongs. James cuts him off by towing his side again and again, watching gleefully as Sirius squirms and tries to get away. yelping and crying out from the onslaught. It doesn't take long before Sirius is grabbing James's foot, bending his toe back and tickling the bottom half of his foot. James reacts with a squawk, full body jerking so hard he tumbles off the sofa and almost brains himself into the coffee table. Panting and laying face down on the floor, James groans. Above him, Sirius is practically howling. That was completely uncalled for, he grunts. Sirius laughs, falling him into a deep chuckle. Karma, shouldn't have been poking me with your stanky feet. I hate my feet being tickled, James whines, pushing himself up. Then don't put them where they don't belong. Sirius grins at him. James decides face planting the floor was more than worth it to see a sparkle back in Sirius's eyes and healthy flush on his cheeks. James likes it when Sirius looks happy. When his eyes are dull, it reminds James too much of the times when he still lived with his old family, when he seemed to float through life, sometimes with his eyes as haunted as a World War One soldier. Happy looks good at Sirius. Hey, Sirius sits up straight suddenly. I've been meaning to ask you something. Yes? Sirius blinks. What? Yes, James repeats. You have my permission to marry Mooney, and yes, of course, I will be your best man. Sirius rolls his eyes with a chuckle. Not all I meant, you twat. Are you saying I'm not going to be your best man? Of course you will be, Sirius scolds. Just not yet, Prongs. Don't get ahead of yourself. James bows, but lets it go quickly. Him and Peter have a bet running since they were all 18 on when Sirius and Remus were going to get married. Peter bet on when they were all 24. So he's automatically lost despite being certain they'd get married after that 10-year anniversary. James bet on 26, so time is running out for him, but if he wants to make an easy £100 of Peter. Shuffling forward, James rests his chin on the seat of the sofa, body sprawled out still on the floor, as he looks up at his best friend. What do you want to talk about? He asks, tone soft. Nothing normally comes good of Sirius wanting to chat about something. The last time they did this, he was bracing himself to tell James he wanted to move to Yorkshire to go to university. And while it wasn't a bad thing, the state Sirius got in about telling everyone was. James is still fully convinced he was most scared of telling their parents and Remus, and actually not at all worried about James, as he knew he'd follow Sirius to the end of the earth if he wanted to go. Sirius smirks, and James barely gets a moment to be confused before he blurts out, "The hot doctor." What? James blinks. Why do you? Because, my soft and gooey friend, you are absolutely smitten with this man and have been talking about him non-stop for weeks, making all of our ears literally bleed with all the mushy shit you come up with. Sirius doesn't halt even in his speech when James begins to sputter in defense. Yet, to my recollection, you haven't been on a date with him yet. James sighs, closing his eyes pitifully. He didn't need reminding of that, nor did he need the dick about how much he's been talking about Regulus. Regulus is just so busy, though, all the time, literally. If he's not at work, he's studying. And when he's not doing either of those things, he's got about 24 hours to spare, and almost always his friends are dragging him out to get drunk somewhere. James would be concerned about the amount of Regulus seems to be at the pub, except he probably only goes once every 2 weeks. Yet it stands out against the rest of his text when he's either at the hospital or sweating over grueling surgery notes. James admires him, though. He admires the younger man, who's qualified so young, yet knows as much as someone who's been doing it for decades. He admires and hates the way Regulus throws his own personal agenda and physical health in the bin the moment he's called into the hospital. He admires Regulus' unyielding commitment to the hospital, the staff, and the patients, to the point where sometimes he ends up working 5 or 6 days a week without complaint. James admires it. He really does. Only James is human, and as a human, he likes a healthy amount of attention. Unfortunately, the one person he's been dying for quality attention from is more dedicated to work than he is in the general fundamentals of living. Hence, the natural dilemma of having been texting and occasionally seeing Regulus for weeks and weeks when he sneaks onto the neurology ward to greet him while he's working. Yeah, they haven't been on a date. The only form of a date they've been on are three occasions that, if one looked closely, are nowhere near dates. One was a cancellation of pottery that involved regular sleeping off a hangover and cooking a meal to make up for it. The second was when James crashed around Regulus's apartment again to make the younger man watch Jaws, which can hardly be counted as a date and instead more of a hangout. The third was when James picked Regulus up from a night shift when he was dead on his feet and brought him back breakfast bagels to counteract the severe lack of sleep the younger boy was suffering from. All three were not dates. No matter how much James wished they were, they simply weren't. Does Regulus even want to go on a date with him? They've kissed already, sure, but Regulus has already said that he doesn't do that sort of thing. What this thing between them is, James isn't so sure anymore. The lines between Regulus's wants and fears have been blurred since they kissed and proceeded to spend half the day napping on the sofa. What does Regulus want? Is James just a bit of fun? Does Regulus make out with all his friends? No, surely not. James may not know Regulus as well as he knows the Marauders, but James is certain Regulus isn't the type to mess him around. Regulus is just cautious. Yes, that's it. Maybe he's had a bad relationship before and is hesitant to try again. James is happy to wait. He'd wait as long as it takes to be able to be given a chance by the riveting Regulus Black and his soft hair and stormy eyes and huge brain. James would wait as long as it takes to show Regulus all the wonderful things the young doctor deserves. A date would be nice, though. Very nice, in fact. Prongs. James blinks. Sirius is looking down at him with a face twisted with concern. You good? Sirius asks. You really zoned out on me then. Has something happened with the pretty doctor? No, James blurts, shaking his head. No, nothing's happened. I'm guessing that's the problem then. Sirius nods. Nothing has happened, and you want more to happen. It's not. I don't need. He's just. James sighs, rubbing his eyes. You know we kissed, right? Sirius rolls his eyes. Yes, Prongs, I know. Mooney knows. Wormtail knows. I'm pretty sure you've told every stranger in London about that kiss. Shut up, James gripes, groaning. It's just. It's been 2 weeks since we kissed, and I haven't seen him since because he's been so busy with work and. Prongs, dude, you need to speak to this guy, Sirius says, tone cooling to stern seriousness. If he's leading you on, you need to say something. He can't be doing this to you. You've given him your all, and if he's not reciprocating the same, then that's not fair. You need to drop the guy before he can break your heart. It's not like that, James tries. Is it not? I bet he's not at home right now worrying about what you guys are and why you haven't been on a date yet. He doesn't ever arrange to see you or give you free coffee or he's busy working. Your mom's a doctor too, and she's always made time for Monday. James wants to argue that statement, that it isn't entirely true. James can recall times when he was younger that his father would argue with his mother that she was spending too much time at work, missing out on too much life, and James growing up. It didn't happen often. James could probably count on one hand all the times Monty had to say to her that she needed to work less or stop picking up extra shifts and missing family dinners with them all. It all turned around when James was 11 and his mother missed his first football game at Hogwarts because she was working. The game was only for fun, and James actually ended up quitting the team before he turned 12, but his father made a huge deal out of his mother missing it. His mother was more heartbroken than she was angry that Monty blew up at her, and she promised she wouldn't miss anything else. It helped when she became chief doctor and she could have more control over the hours she worked and the overtime she picked up. Sirius didn't see that, and James is never going to tell him that he spent most of his childhood with just his dad because his mother's focus was on the hospital. Sirius had it worse than James, so he doesn't have the right to complain about how much his mother prioritized her profession over him and his dad. James doesn't get the same sickly feeling from Regulus like he did with his mother. He doesn't mind how much Regulus works. If anything, he just worries about how much the young man is taking on his shoulders. Sure, James misses him. James wishes Regulus has more time. And he tries not to wonder if Regulus uses work as an excuse to not see him more. You deserve better than chasing tails, Prongs. Serious odds. You've been talking for months. You two literally kissed, and he spent half a day napping around here a few weeks ago. You're more than in your right to ask the guy on a date. If anything, you're long overdue at this date at this fucking rate. Couples would be at their fifth date by this point. Not a couple, though. That's another thing you should figure out, Sirius Countess. You're everything a couple is without the dates and the label. You need to make sure this guy isn't stringing you along for the fun of it, Prongs. He's not, James defends, though the clench in his chest makes him doubt it. Then go for it, Sirius bellows, throwing out his arms up. Ask the jerk on a date. Woo him with your pronksy power and get your guy as whipped for you as you are for him. He's not a jerk, James grumbles, and I'm not whipped. Oh. Sirius groans, Prongs, I love you, my guy. You are more than wit than a trained dog. Hey, am I wrong? You are literally nicknamed after the dog. Irrelevant. We call you Patfoot. Text him, Prongs. Be a man and ask this guy on a date before I steal your phone and do it for you. But what if. Now! Sirius shouts, voice booming. Before I murder you for literally killing me slowly over this shit. Take him ice skating or something. I can't ice skate. Neither can he, probably. You can fall into each other's arms on the ice. It will be incredibly romantic. It sounds like the least romantic thing to James, although highly amusing. Regulus doesn't seem like the type to enjoy flailing and slipping around an ice ring. Fine, James grumbles, standing up. He snatches his phone off the coffee table and makes his way into the kitchen. Once the kettle is on and his tea is prepared, he types out the first text. Him and Regulus haven't texted this morning yet, due to Regulus sleeping in today for his night shift tonight. Still, if James doesn't text now, he has no doubt Sirius will steal his phone and do it for him. James, 10:06. Good morning. How are you feeling about ice skating? The reply, surprisingly, comes quickly. Sirius, 10:11. I don't resent it. Why? James, 10:11. Why the fuck are you awake? Regulus, 10:12. Sylvester had a check-up appointment at 11, so I had to get up. Don't stop worrying now. I'll have a nap later before my shift. James smiles. Regulus really loves that bloody cat. James, 10:11. When are you next off work? Regulus, 10:13. I'm on my last night shift, then I have 4 days off. I'm not answering any more questions until you tell me what this is about. James, 10:14. Because the ice rink has opened by the Tower of London, and I was wondering if you fancy going if you have any time off. James, 10:14. Don't feel like you have to say yes. James, 10:14. It's just an offer, no pressure. The reply doesn't come as quickly as the rest. James's heart is pounding in his chest stupidly, like a rabid animal fighting its way out of his cage. He is so stupid. Why did he listen to Sirius? You okay? Sirius asks. James shakes his head helplessly. When his phone pings, he almost drops his cup of tea in haste to unlock his phone and read it. Regulus, 10:17. Like a date? Will Regulus be scared if James says yes? Will he be put out if James says no? James, 10:18. It's whatever you want it to be. It would just be nice to see you again when you're not on the ward. James, 10:19. Still, no pressure though. Regulus, 10:22. I suppose it would be foolish for me to pass up an opportunity to see you stack it straight on your ass on the ice. Friday good for you? James' eyes widen. He reads the text once, twice, again, and again. He feels like a giddy child again. He looks up at Sirius, who's watching with intensity from over the back of the sofa. He says yes, James murmurs, lips tugging into his beam smile. It's Friday. Hallelujah! Sirius cheers, punching the air. And a prongsy boy. James smiles as he looks down at his phone again. James, 10:25. Friday's perfect. I'll book the rink and let you know the time. Regulus, 10:26. You already seem far too excited to go ice skating. Regulus, 10:26. Can you ice skate? James, 10:26. I am going to leave that up to a surprise. Regulus, 10:27. I'm taking that as a no. Huh, Friday will be highly amusing. James, 10:27. Can you ice skate? You're going on a date, Franks? Sirius shouts, whistling and throwing himself across the sofa. My boy's going out on a date. It's not a date. It is. Sirius laughs. Oh, dude, this is whoa weird. James' head whips up from his phone. What? You're going on a date with your mom's work colleague. Oh, for fuck. James groans. Don't stop bringing that up again. In fact, they're one up from work colleagues, really. Your mom is his boss. Also his right-hand man, as far as Effie always says as she's talking about how fantastic he is on shifts and how she loves working with him. Sirius thesis. Does your mom know how infiltrated you are with her neuro inferior? Pat, please stop. James whines pitifully. I'm taking that she doesn't know. Yet. James stresses. She doesn't know. Yet. Sirius hums, clearly unconvinced, but thoroughly enjoying James's suffering. What happened to my supportive best friend? James asks, throwing his hands up. Minutes ago you were convincing me to go on a date with him, and now you're teasing me for it. That's what best friends are for, Prongs. Was I ever like this to you and Mooney? James asks, collapsing on the sofa beside him. I'm pretty sure I was completely supportive from day one. Oh, you were a little shit to me and Mooney, Sirius goes. Do you remember how much you and Wormtail teased us for how long it took for us to get together? Well, you were both spinning after each other for about 2 years without ever hinting to one another that you liked each other. James laughs. I mean, you both dated different people and flew with everything with a pause apart from each other. Sirius grumbles, rolling his eyes. I don't recall that. You literally had a fist fight with a kid in third year in this playground because you were jealous he kissed Mooney at a party when they were playing Spin the Bottle. And when Mooney asked you why you did that, you said he was spreading rumors about everyone. Well, he was going on about kissing Mooney, so it technically wasn't a lie. You were both hopeless. Fuck off. No, you can fuck off. None of you. Sirius rolls his eyes. None of you do. What do you fancy for breakfast? Anything that's not Cocoa Pops. Sirius grumbles. I swear Mooney lives of cereal. Cocoa Pops are rather lovely. James is about to get up when his phone rings. His dad's name flashing up on the screen. Dad, he answers, but he doesn't get to hear his father's reply before Sirius is snapping the phone out of his hand. Monty, he cheers before bottling up from the sofa. Long time no speak. James is still gasping with surprise as Sirius is walking away from the sofa. He doesn't bother changing for the phone after he hears Sirius' laugh echo through the studio flat. Sirius can speak to Monty for as long as he wants, James decides. He'll chat to his dad later, because he knows he has no chance of getting his phone back now. It takes about an hour for Sirius to get off the phone with Monty, but that's not anything new. James lets them. James Potter is not a self-centered man. He takes pride in his appearance, sure, as much as one can when they have a head full of untamable hair and a slight, large obsession with red canvas. James likes clothes as much as the next person, and he enjoys looking good when he goes out. He enjoys making an effort. He enjoys picking out nice clothing and standing in front of a mirror feeling confident. Normally, he doesn't struggle with it. Today, however, he is currently freaking out. A lot. What about this one? He asks, stepping away from the mirror and standing in front of the phone that he's rested up on his bedside cabinet. Peter's face stares back at him from the screen, looking thoroughly more exasperated than he did an hour when he picked up the phone. It's lovely, it's just as lovely as the last 9 fucking outfits you've tried on, Prongs. This is actually number 14. James replies, frantically unbuttoning the black shirt with gusto. I tried on 5 outfits before I found you. And I'm so pleased I picked up. Peter snarks, rolling his eyes. Seriously, mate? All of them have looked fine, it's just a date. What is even so special about this guy? I've never seen you stressed over the color of a shirt you're going to wear. What's so special? James practically shrieks. Rontil would he be freaking out this much right now if he wasn't bloody special? Oh, that's why I'm so confused. Peter shakes his head. You didn't even put this much effort to your graduation outfit. Graduation doesn't even compare to going on a date with regulars. I can't tell if this is cute or concerning. Well, stop trying to figure it out and help me pick a pair of trousers. James huffs. He feels like he's going to need to shower again. All the rapid changes of clothing and stressing has caused him to break out into a slight sweat. Outfit number 7 was the best. My 7 or your 7? Fucking hell, the one with the grey trousers and navy blue pinstripe shirt. Peter says, but keep the top 2 buttons undone and roll the sleeves up. James pauses in kicking off the jeans on his legs, straightening up in just his boxes to stare at the screen. Worms, we're going ice skating. It's going to be freezing. Why will I roll my sleeves up? Peter rolls his eyes hard. Because, Prongs, you have lovely muscly arms and even straight men like to look at them. Also, I know you're going ice skating, you twat. You've told me about 30 times since I answered the phone. You're going to have a jacket on top, so roll the damn shirt sleeves, Potter. James blinks in surprise. Right, sleeves rolled up, muscles out, got it. Not shoes. Put some trousers on, and then we can discuss the shoes. On it. I'm also about to break your heart, Prongs, because we're not going with the classics. James snaps up. What? You hurt me. Peter replies. Put the red Converse away and get out the black shoes. One tail. James whines. We're going ice skating. Yes, I know, but you're also going to a restaurant afterwards, and red Converse are not it. Black All-Stars? Peter rolls his eyes again. Fine. Are your trousers long enough to cover your socks? He frowns. Why would I need to do that? Hold up your foot. James lifts his leg so his striped-stocked clad foot is clear in the camera. That is why, Peter nods. I don't have the energy to argue with you about wearing socks to match your shoes because I know for a fact you don't own a pair of plain black socks. James quickly pulls on his trousers and grabs the all black trainers from the wardrobe. Tying them and one quickly, he shows Peter. The blonde nods solidly. Smashing. Right, code next. Try the one from outfit 2? The tan jacket? Peter nods, so James swipes up the tan leather jacket laid on the bed and strokes it on. He takes a moment looking in the mirror, running a hand through his hair, only to immediately try and flatten it down a little bit. Peter nods, satisfied. You look cracker, mate. You think? Eh. He nods again. I've got great taste, if I don't say so myself. Sure that's good enough? Fuck me, Potter. You're going on a fucking date, not a wedding. It's a date with a pretty doctor. Yeah, a doctor, not a bloody queen. Peter huffs. You look grand, trust me. Don't you dare fucking change, or I'm hanging up, and you can give yourself an aneurysm and your laser. Alright, James yelps. I won't change. Please don't hang up. I still need help. Put the chain with your grandmother's ring on, and the Marauder's ring. Peter interrupts. That's all you need. Trust it will be enough. Thank you, Wormtail. That's what friends for. Peter smiles. Speaking of which, what's Pat? Why is he here trying to help you with that meltdown? He's at the studio. James admits. I managed to convince him to stay off yesterday to give him a break, but he insists going in today. Peter nods. That works too much. You're not telling me? James scoffs weakly. So, just the chain and Marauder's ring? Yeah, trust me. Thank you so much, Worms. I take full credit, so you're welcome. Peter smiles. Seriously, Potter, you look hot. The pretty doctor won't know what hit him when he sees you. James smiles and shakes his head. I don't know. He is really pretty. You're gonna make me puke in a minute, mate. You haven't seen him, Peter. James argues as he snatches up the necklace off the side and turns to the mirror to clip it on. You have no idea. No, I don't. Only you and Mooney seem to have met the mysterious doctor. Peter smirks. And Mooney said he's a bit of a cunt. Mooney calls everyone a cunt. True, I'll give you that. He's just a little bit cold when you first meet him. With your charms, did you, Potter? James smirks over his shoulder. Damn right I did. That lad. Peter laughs loudly. What time are you meeting, pretty boy? I'm getting a taxi to his for 5. James glances at the clock on his nightstand. It's just gone 4. Shit, oh my, it's 4 o'clock, how, what? I started looking for an outfit at 2. Yeah, tell me about it. We've been doing this for an hour, mate. Peter says, though his tone is exasperated. James is too busy processing the fact that he spent 2 hours on choosing what he was going to wear and having organized nothing else. Prongs made you're fine for time, Peter says, apparently being able to read the panic on James's face. You've got an hour to get your lost shit together, and you get your fine ass over to his. He lives in Kensington until... James yelps. It'll take me 50 minutes to get up by taxi at this time of day. I've heard of the tube. His apartment is ages away from the tube station. How do you know that? The first time I went round to his place, James admits, I didn't want to drive because I assumed we were going to Pottery. And walk to his room from the underground is like 20 minutes alone. Sounds like you need to leave now then. Thanks, Peter. James shouts, scrambling around to throw the clothes back in his wardrobe and chests of the house with some form of order, so they're not left askew on his bedroom floor. I can't believe this is happening. I'm going to be so late. He's going to think I've completely bailed. I don't. James! Peter yells, and James freezes. And his next words come out so thick with his Scottish accent, James can barely understand him. You're off your damn hat, you twat. Calm down, will you? Text him to say, hey, traffic is shite, and you're going to be late. Take a breath, tie your fucking shoes, and book a taxi in 10 minutes when you know you've got your shit together. James blinks. He looks down at his shoes. But true to Peter's assumption, the laces are still untied and sprung on the floor. Cheeks burning, he looks back at the phone sheepishly. Alright, he breathes, nodding. He runs a hand through his hair and straightens his glasses that have come askew on his nose in all of his manic haste to tidy up. You're right, yeah, thanks, mate. Okay, text work, tie shoes, finish tidying, find wallet and keys, and book a taxi. Got it, great. This is painful to witness, you know that? I don't need you anymore, Wantil. James hisses as he picks up his phone. I will hang up if you keep on at me. Be my guest, Peter laughs. This whole ordeal has been sickening. I haven't met this guy and I already feel sorry for him for having to spend the evening for you when you're in this much of a diff. Fuck off. Watch your language, Potter. The feeder is on next door, you cunt. James throws his hand up in despair before swiping Peter's face on up the tree. He texts Regulus a quick apology text and a new ETA time. He somehow managed to get his room remotely put together, a taxi booked, and ready to go in under 10 minutes. Go get that ass, Prongs! Peter cheers down the phone. I hear doctors have big dick. Bye! Peter hangs up. James hangs up abruptly, cheeks flaming a violent red as he slams the studio apartment door and shoves his phone in his pocket roughly. He takes the stairs two at a time, descending quickly before spilling out onto the London pavement in a gangle of long limbs and flapping clothes. He practically stumbles into the taxi, breathlessly panting out Regulus's address before he's melting into the seat. He feels exhausted already, so ridiculously worked up and nervous, and he hasn't even seen Regulus in the flesh yet. Did Regulus know how much of a date tonight was going to be? He didn't make the comment of the text about it not being a date, but nor did he confirm that he wanted to be either. Did Regulus think it wasn't a date? Can ice skating and dinner not be a date? Regulus has barely texted James since he accepted the idea of ice skating and dinner, only the odd updates to show he's still alive and one confirming that he likes Italian food when James was stressing out over where to book dinner for. His phone buzzes in his lap. He holds it with sweaty hands. Regulus, 16:43. You never did strike me as a type to be punctual. You're lucky we hadn't arranged to meet in public, otherwise I wouldn't be impressed with you being left stranded to loiter in the streets. James rolls his eyes. If he's learned anything about Regulus so far, it's that he's an expressive drama queen. Not that James would ever tell him that. He can't imagine Regulus taking that observation well. The taxi gets to Regulus building in 15 minutes after 5. Late, but not too late. James pays the guy with a stream of pleasantries before dashing out of the taxi like it's on fire. He tries the front door, and like last time, it's left on the latch, so he can get inside. His legs are trembling underneath him as he ascends the stairs to Regulus's floor. He wipes his hands on his trousers, brain telling his heart to calm the fuck down and stop beating so fast. Standing outside Regulus's front door, James freezes. His heart is pounding so fast he feels like it's crawling up his throat. The hallway suddenly feels dark and tiny, the walls tight, and the air non existent in his lungs. This isn't the first time he's meeting Regulus outside of work. They've done it various times, and most of which have been on James's invitation, just like this evening. That just feels like there's so much more pressure now. This was James's idea. This was James's intention. So what if Regulus doesn't enjoy it? What if Regulus begins to hate him for it? What if James annoys Regulus too much tonight? Will Regulus realize he doesn't really repulse James like he always teases he does? James really wants this, but what if Regulus doesn't? He just needs to knock. He needs to knock on the door. And as soon as he sees Regulus, he'll feel better. Regulus always makes him happy. A lightness he hasn't felt in a long time. The younger man makes James feel like he's walking on air. So, he just needs to knock. Yet, he can't bring himself to do it. He barely has to move his hand to reach the wood of the door, but the task suddenly feels too hard. He just. The door swings open suddenly, and there he is. Regulus is staring at him, jaw set and a single dark eyebrow raised. James just stares back, face locked because. Wow! Hello! I could hear you all heavy breathing through the door, Regulus says, tone gruff, but James practically melts. Breathe any louder and even Darcy and Malcolm will hear you. James blinks stupidly. Who? My deaf neighbors downstairs. Grace replies, already turning away from the door. He stops a few steps away, turning to face James and frowning. Well, are you coming in? Oh, yes? James stammers, stamming it thing in. The flat is warm, curtains still open to allow the setting sun to shine through, making the room glow in a soft yellow. It's as tidy as it always is, with a tasteful amount of its organization, with its overflowing books dotted in the empty spaces, and blankets placed haphazardly over the backs of the sofa and chairs. Sylvester is stretched along the back of the sofa like a thick black scarf, but his green eyes are open and staring at James intensely. He's like a mouse creeping into the room. Regulus is placing a mug in the dishwasher before he's rounding the kitchen island. It's then that James gets a look at him. His jaw promptly drops to the floor. Well, Regulus has never looked bad. Tonight, oh, he simply looks ravishing. A perfectly fitted black sweater vest sits on the top of a crisp white long sleeve shirt, the collar unbuttoned enough to show the dainty silver chain clasped around his long, pale neck. His hands are decorated with a collection of silver rings and fingernails painted a stark shade of black, making his fingers look even longer and thinner than before. His black trousers made his legs look a mile long, but hug his ass like they were made for him. The legs folded up at the bottom enough to leave a section of space where his black socks are pulled up and his clean, unmarked Doc Martens shoes are tied tightly on his feet. So simple, the black, so dark and contrasting with the white shirt and his pale skin, yet James feels like he can barely breathe looking at him. All sharp angles and long lines. He looks like he's come straight out of a fashion magazine. He feels ridiculously giddy because Reckless just looks so good. So good that James is itching to rip off the perfectly fitting clothes to see the masterpiece underneath. Eyes mentally undressing Regulus from toes to head. James lets his eyes travel up until they land on his face, only to find two sharp grey eyes staring at him. You done? James barely resists falling to the floor right then and there. You look amazing, he breathes, barely coming out strong enough to be heard. Regulus must hear him, though, as he rolls his eyes before turning around. He doesn't turn quick enough to hide the red tint coloring his cheeks, and James' heart ticks at the fact that he caused that. I wear things other than straps sometimes, Regulus replies, swiping the coat folded over his arms on the sofa. He shrugs it on, and then wraps a thick, warm-looking emerald scarf round his neck too. He suddenly looks both deadly and cuddly at the same time. It does dangerous things to James's mindset. You just... James licks his lips, heat pooling like an open wound in his stomach. Regulus looks up at him, storming eyes practically twinkling, his curls looking practically crafted around his head, and so soft. James wants to run his hands through them, pull on them, yank on them, to stretch Regulus's head back and expose the skin of his throat too. You look delicious. Regulus blinks, looking startled and surprised. Pink decorates his cheeks, and his normally clenched jaw seems to loosen for a moment. As quickly as it went, the younger man seemed to snap back into his usual hard focus. He tilts his head slightly, eyes traveling down James's slowly enough that makes James want to squirm. The dark eyes snap back up to his own, and then Regulus is curling his mouth in a sly, smug smile. You don't look so bad yourself, Paula. James feels frozen on the spot as Regulus leans over the sofa to give Sylvester a gentle stroke and scratch before stepping around the statue of a man in his living room. Well, James startles, turning around so fast he almost loses his balance. Regulus has already got the door open and is staring straight at James with intent. Are we going? Yes. Fuck yeah, we are. You can skate, right? James looks up from where he's tying the laces on his skates. Regulus is looking down at him, arms crossed over his chest. Of course. James grins, standing up immediately, wobbling into the balance on the skates. Regulus looks at him blankly before rolling his eyes. Unsurprisingly, I'm not overly confident in your assurance to not completely embarrass yourself and me this evening. I'm not going to be embarrassing, James defends, still grinning. It's going to be fun. Plus, no one ever actually skates that well on these things. It's for amateurs. It's supposed to be embarrassing and funny. If you fall and break a bone, I'm not helping you. You're a doctor. I'm a neurologist. Regulus corrects pointedly. I don't do broken bones and bruised prides. Tomato, potato, same thing. James thinks, slinging an arm around Regulus's shoulder as they begin to walk, or hobble, in James's case, to the door onto the ice rink. Don't lie, Reg. I know you'll pick me up when I fall. Don't rely on that assumption too much, Potter, Regulus grumbles. The tension that shot through his body when James grabbed him slowly bleeding out. James tries not to giggle about the fact that Regulus is the perfect size to be tucked into his side. When they get on the rink, James keeps a hand on the railing outside like a lifeline, so focused on getting his balance as he practically shuffles along the ice. He barely notices that Regulus is skating alongside him instead of following behind him like he'd expected. James jolts in surprise. You can skate? He asks. Mers raises an eyebrow, gliding slightly ahead of him with no effort to keep his unfazed balance. Yes, clearly you can't. I'm just warming up, James argues. Regulus's eyebrow arch higher and sharper. His eyes flick momentarily to where James's hand is gripping onto the railing. Let's go then. James rolls his eyes, puffing his chest, bracing his own balance. He pushes off the side. He looks at Regulus, who skates a few meters away from him and is watching him expectantly. James smirks, motioning down to himself to silently say, "Ha! Fuck you, I can skate." And then, James lasts approximately 6 seconds before his legs are slipping beneath him and his arms are windmilling frantically. He's on the ground before he can blink, flat on his back and cold ice seeping into his jacket. Regulus's face appears above him. I thought you said you could skate. He yelps, high and loud. The younger man's face is twisted with shock and a hint of concern, but James can't even focus on that because Regulus looks ridiculously like an angel at this angle. Coals framing his face, the dark sky behind him, everything looking like a picture perfect painting. Are you okay? James blinks a couple of times and then he nods, mouth widening into a cheeky grin. Yeah, I'm good. A bit cold now, though. He laughs and holds a hand out. Help me up? Regulus rolls his eyes, but grabs James's hand with hesitation. It takes an embarrassing 2 attempts to get up on ice, and he almost drags Regulus down with him the first time. When he's finally standing, his legs are wide and body stiff in falling again. Regulus is still gripping both his hands, both zones smaller and colder than James. He's looking up at James with tension as if he's waiting for James to just fall again. You okay now? Could you, James chuckles shakily. Can you help me get back to the railing? Regulus rolls his eyes again, and as he begins to guide James back to the edge of the ring, his lips begin to curl upwards. What are you smiling for? James asks, slightly distracted in how easy and effortlessly Regulus is managing to ice skate backwards. Regulus shrugs half-heartedly, just remembering how funny you looked when you stacked it onto your ass. Hey! James cries in surprise. That's not very nice. Regulus chuckles softly as he guides James's hands back to the railing. James's chest instantly mourns the contact and even aches even more when Regulus begins to smoothly skate away from him. Wait, come back! James whines, scrambling to catch up with him while his skates slip and slide beneath him. Don't skate away from me! Regulus laughs darkly, and then promptly turns with the grace of a gentle gust of wind and is gliding away on the ice. James watches, transfixed, as Regulus moves across the ice with the confidence and grace of a ballerina, all thin limbs and stripes of dark clothing. He's practically moving around like a professional. He makes it look effortlessly as he skates with the current of other people on the ring, weaving amongst them and gliding elegantly in circles in the space in the middle. James is still standing in the same spot Regulus left him, his jaw so wide it's practically on the floor. Regulus laughs at him as he drifts forward towards him. You, James murmurs, then abruptly shakes his head. You're such a show off! Where the fuck did you learn to skate like that? Regulus laughs and shrugs his shoulder. I didn't. I've only been skating a few times. That is clearly bullshit, James snaps, but he's grinning so wide and his tone holds no heat. He's simply blown away because if Regulus wasn't attracting before, watching him glide over the ice like he was a professional has sold the deal. You, you're amazing! No one can do that without training. I swear I haven't done training, Rose replies, scratching his neck beneath the scarf. The first time I ice skated was when I came back to London when I was 18. Me, Evan, and Barty came the first Christmas together at university. I'm just naturally good at everything. James scoffs, shaking his head. Fuck me. You're good, Reg. I know. Regulus smirks. He holds out a hand. What? Come on, you can't stand there holding the railing the whole time. We only have an hour on the rink, and you've already wasted 50 minutes of it holding the side like a child or laying on your back, Regulus says. Time to get your money's worth, Potter. James shakes his head. Reg, seriously, I can't skate. I know, but I can. Regulus' face is soft, his arms still outstretched and pale hand inviting. Come on, I won't let you fall. I won't let you fall. The 5 words are almost enough to knock James on his back alone. His breath gets trapped in his throat, and suddenly it's like the chill in his bones is melted away. Reluctance gone, James jolts to grab Regulus's hand and lets himself be pulled from the railing. The moment he's an arm's length away, reality sets in and James' whole body tenses with fear. Fuck, wait! He gasps, legs wobbling. The ice feels so much more slippery when there isn't a whole stable ball to hold on to. Shit, oh my god, I can't. Relax. Regulus says, seriously, Potter, loosen up your two tense, relax your legs, bend your knees slightly. Trust me, you'll fall faster if you try to skate as stiff as a board. This is for you to say. James grumbles, but bends his legs as directed. Not that much. Regulus shouts, bloody hell, Potter, you don't need to bend over, there's kids on the ice. Keep it PG. Regulus? James gasps, stepping back into standing and ultimately sending himself scrambling for bands once more. Flating back and forth, a scream is on the brink of his tongue before Regulus is grabbing him by the waist and yanking him forward, making them flush together. James gasps, but this time it's with pleasant surprise. Regulus looks up at him, but his arm doesn't move from where it's wound itself around James's back. Stop messing around, he snaps, but James is more focused on the pink in his cheeks that is definitely not from the cold. Or I will push you on your arse and leave you there. You wouldn't, James grins. Regulus merely responds with a quirk of his eyebrow, and James can barely resist the urge to reach up and run his fingers gently over the silver of the dark hair there, to ease the tension in the smaller male's forehead. Come on, Rose murmurs. Let's teach you how to skate. Ultimately, James does not learn how to skate by the time the hour's up. Regulus manages to stop him from falling over again, but James's expertise only stretches to being able to bend his legs slightly this time and kick with enough gusto to carry him a small distance of space. He doesn't let go of Regulus's hand until the very end, when Regulus says to give it a try skating alone. James tries to protest, but Regulus has already detached their hands and slides away from him. When James frees his arms outstretched and body frozen, Regulus chuckles at him. Come on, Potter, he says, skating around him in circles as if it's easy as breathing. Like we've done. Just kicks your legs slightly. You've done it with me. You can do it alone. Shut up, it's just. This is scary, James whines. And stop skating around me, you're just showing off and it's putting me off. Redis chuckles again, gliding away slightly. Stupid show off. When the time comes for them to get kicked off, James is so stalled by the whistle that his back straightens and his legs slide straight under him, and Regulus laughs so hard it practically echoes through the whole Tower of London beside the ring. James lays he's defeated on the ice, arms and legs spread, until Regulus skates over to him and stands by his head. Oh, it's great play, Prada. Fuck off and help me, James grumbles, and only when he's standing and being guided back to the exit of the rink, Regulus's arms loops through his own, does he add, I thought you said you wouldn't let me fall. You told me to go away, Regulus argues. How am I meant to catch you when I'm told to give you space? James whines but cuts it short, and he practically scrambles off the ice onto safe, stable ground. Rose laughs at him again, and James can't even tell him to shut up because he's making a beeline to the desk to get his shoes back. Romantic ice skating be damned, he's never doing it again. It takes him a moment to get his legs used to being back in shoes instead of balancing on a sliver of metal, but once he does, he practically skips out of the building with a human Regulus in tow. Well, that was fun, he beams. Indeed, Rose nods, smirking. I knew it would be fun watching you fall over. So mean. Well, we meant to go for dinner. You still like Italian, yes? You asked me that 2 days ago, Potter, Rose replies. My food palate doesn't change that fast that I no longer like a whole food group. Of course I still like Italian. Good, James grins, looking at their arms once more. Then, you're going to love this space. How far is it? Just around the corner. You're going to Lucas? Rose asks when they stop outside. James's stomach drops like a cold stone. Yes, that's. Is that okay? Yes. If you don't like it here, we can go somewhere else. It's no problem. I know some other places we could go. Or you can choose. Do you want to choose? You don't even need to have Italian if you don't want. Well, slow down. Regulus laughs slightly, hand resting on James's chest. When he drops it, the space where his hand was burns. It's okay, James. I've never been here before, but Evan swears by it. I've always wanted to try it, but I've never had the time when I've been in this area of the city. Oh, James murmurs, taking a few breaths. Okay, great. Shall we? Rose nods, smiling lightly. Inside, it's as fancy as James expected. He's never been before, but his mother said it would be the best Italian place in London. The waiter walks them to the table, and James is grateful they're not in the middle of the restaurant, but instead slightly to the side where it's not so loud. The soft glow of lights is complemented by the gentle flicker of the candles on the table. The waiter hands them their menus before asking their wine of choice. James looks at Regulus, already feeling slightly out of depth. They are like red or white, Rice asks. White, I think. Regulus smiles at him slightly before turning to the waiter. White, please, and a pitcher of water. Of course. Regulus nods in thanks before turning to James. This isn't your type of place, is it? James blushes sheepishly. Is it obvious? Yes, he replies, plucking the menu off the table and looking down at it. But it's also cute. James blushes harder. I just called him cute. Is this your type of place? Yeah, it used to be. Rose replies, still looking at the menu. I guess old habits die hard. I wouldn't say it's a habit that needs to die, being able to eat at fancy restaurants. Myrtilus looks up through his eyelashes and flashes him a shy smile. I guess. James picks up his own menu and is still browsing when the waitress brings them the wine and a pot of water. What are you thinking of having? James asks. Myrtilus hums, eyes scanning the menu still. I'm thinking gnocchi di patate, ragu di carfo e sola, or maybe the pisocelli della faltellina. James blinks in surprise. You can speak Italian? Regulus looks up at him, expression placid. Vaguely, enough to be able to not butcher the pronunciation while I'm eating in an Italian restaurant. I could have a conversation in Italian if I needed to, but I wouldn't consider myself completely fluent. You. James suddenly feels hot. You can speak Italian and French. I know a bit of German, Grace nods, but I'd be hard pushed to have a conversation with someone in German. Fucking hell, James breathes. That's incredibly hot. Regulus' face flushes pink. Oh, do you know? Do you know what you want to order? I feel self-conscious now trying to pronounce it. Regulus smiles slightly. Maybe read an English version then. The pasta parcels. Capacelli di suga e amaretti al burro e salvia. James nods, grinning. Exactly. When the waitress comes to take the food orders, Regulus orders for both of them in flawless Italian. Even the accent sounds natural, and James's toes curl at the way the words roll off the younger man's tongue, effortlessly and smoothly. Like the few times James has heard him speak French, it makes his already smooth voice sound like liquid velvet. It takes a lot of effort for James to not drool all over the table there and then. When the waitress goes, Regulus turns back to James, who currently hasn't got off his slightly inappropriate thoughts about wanting to sink under the table and devour Regulus like a starter. James, yes? You okay? Smashing, why? You look like you're having a stroke. James jolts, blinking hard. He passes a smile on his face, all the while mentally shooing away the thoughts that are highly inappropriate for a fancy restaurant table. Nah, I'm good. Regulus hums suspiciously and sips his wine. When did you learn Italian and German? Start when I was 15, Ray says, his tone taking a slightly harder edge. James notices he does that a lot when he talks about anything for all his life before he was 18. I was homeschooled when I lived in France. Regulus has been very private since they met at first. James has been okay with it, of course, but he can't ignore the fact that Regulus seems to know every detail of his life and gives nothing back. James has always wondered why. Because whenever James brings up life or qualifying as a doctor, Marcus always manages to smoothly turn it on its head back to James. Where did you live before you moved to France? James tries not to think too much on the way Regulus's shoulders tense into a sharp line at the question. I lived here, Regulus replies hesitantly. I was born in London. James almost gasps in surprise. You lived here? Regulus nods. James gasps. No way! Did you go to Hogwarts? No. That's a shame. If you did, we might have met. We would have been in different school years. Still! James beams. Did you not like France then? Is that why you moved back? Regulus's jaw tightens so hard, James can practically hear his teeth grinding. James's chest tightens momentarily, wondering if he pushed Regulus too far. Why is Regulus so worried about talking about his life? What is he trying to hide? You you don't need to answer if you don't want to, James murmurs, and he smiles gently when Regulus's eyes snap up to meet his. I didn't mean to pry. Regulus releases a shaky breath, and his face seems to collapse slightly in relief. Thanks, I don't like talking about it. Let's say it wasn't a good time. Well, I'm glad that you came back to London, James replies, itching to reach out and take Regulus's hand to give him a reassuring squeeze. I'm glad you went to uni and met Barty and Pandora and Evan. I'm glad you qualified, and I'm glad I met you. Regulus blinks, jaw slacking slightly. For a moment, he doesn't say anything, and then his face breaks out in a smirk. You're a soppy bastard, you know, that Potter. James rolls his eyes and grins. Cheers, you absolute charmer. James decides that to not bring up anything to do with Regulus's time before London again. It's clearly a sore subject, and he doesn't want to see that tense distress on Regulus's face again tonight. He doesn't mind waiting a little bit longer to get to know Regulus's history. Deciding to change the subject to something far more interesting, James leans forward on his elbow and says, So, tell me about dorm sharing with Barty in uni. I won't lie, I've been dying to know what kind of roommate he was, considering my first impression of him was to run for the fucking hills. That, at least, has Regulus thrown his head back and laughing. By the time that food arrives, Regulus is in the middle of telling James a story about their first year at university, where they took a night of drinking in the dorm room too far and ended with Evan having to go have his stomach pumped in the hospital, and how Regulus and Barty didn't stay with him in the hospital, but instead ended up going to get a subway, and being so drunk they completely forgot to go back and get him. You just went back to your dorm? James, I cannot express how obliterated we were. It took Barney 40 minutes to eat a sandwich because he was so drunk he was trying to talk through chewing and kept choking. I ended up dropping half of mine on the floor. Then we were kicked out and we were still so pissed we just wanted to sleep, so we went home. What did Evan say? He woke us up when he got back to the dorm in the morning by pouring the last of the book out on us. The smell instantly made body vomit right in his bed. I swear the smell of that shit lingered for a week. Body ended up having to buy a whole new mattress because he couldn't get the smell of some book out of it. Regulus tells James all the memories of him and Pandora sitting in the library all night with coffees and energy drinks, revising for exams and clinical placements. He talks about how Ethan was the first of them to learn to drive, and his parents brought him a fresh pit late BMW as his first car, only for Pandora to crash it a week later when he was trying to teach her in the car park, and she managed to hit the only car in the car park. James almost chokes on his dessert laughing at the story. Rhodes explains about the time when, during a game of drunk truth or dare, they got Evan to run across the campus naked, only to realize halfway through all of them forgot their dorm keys to get back into the building. They had to phone maintenance to let them back in while Evan was standing stark bullocks naked. Down their third bottle of wine when they start talking about their own experience in medical students, and James mentions the time where he was doing his maternity placement and fainted the first time he saw a baby being born. Smacked his head on the table and ended up spending 4 hours of the shifts down in A&E getting observed. Regulus laughs so hard, James can't even chide himself for drunkenly revealing the story that currently only the Morales know because he's still so mortified. It's only when James knocks over his last glass of wine do they pay and take their overdue leave. They stumble out onto the streets, having consumed so much wine and hardly moved for hours, causing the bones in James's body to turn to jelly. When he would have stacked its face first onto the pavement if Regulus hadn't caught him, janking his arm so hard they end up smacking into each other and staggering into a fit of giggles. Fucking hell, I hate wine. James whines as he loops his arm in with Regulus's and practically uses the smaller meal to keep himself upright. I never drink wine. I really, really hate it. I can tell. Regulus laughs. You're like a child who has gone round at a wedding and stolen half the glasses. Can you even walk on your own? No. James pouts, pressing his face into Regulus's hair, which ultimately knocks his balance off even more, and he's no longer even looking where he's going. Don't let go of me. I couldn't even if I wanted to. You'll hang onto my arm like a bloody koala. Would you love me if I was a koala? Absolutely not. Regulus scoffs. Do you have any idea how unsanitary they are? They have chlamydia, Potter. Reggie! James cries, tone petulant and whiny. He abruptly tightens his grip on Regulus's arm, yanking the smaller man into him and spitting them quickly. Whoa, James, shit! Regulus gasps, arms scrambling for purchase on James's coat and stumbling to stay upright as he practically plastered against James's chest. You're insane! Are you trying to make us fall over? No, I just want to cuddle you. James smiles, looking down. He loves the height difference. Radius is about half a head shorter, so not much, but enough that he slots against James like a perfect puzzle piece. Radius rolls his eyes, but his lips are tugging into a smile. Not sickening, Paula. Please don't mention sick. James grimaces. I've drunk far too much wine for that word to be in tonight's vocabulary. I'm getting you water. Why not stay here? I'm getting you a bottle of water from the shop. Regulus leans James against the lamppost and runs into the convenience store on the corner. James feels like he's barely blinked before he's back and the bottle is being shoved into his hands. He's drank half of it when he notices something else in Regulus's hands. What's that? Regulus pulls the large bottle away from his mouth and frowns in confusion. It's Chardonnay. You bought a bottle of wine? James gasps, shaking the bottle of water in his hands for emphasis. I thought we were sobering up. No, you are sobering up. Redis holds up the wine bottle. I am keeping dosed up because I can't still walk in a straight line. James gasps, eyes flickering from the bottle to Reckless's face in surprise. You are the last person I imagined to ever see drinking wines from the bottle in the middle of the street. Reckless smirks, quirking an eyebrow. Maybe you don't know me well enough then. And with that, he takes a large and gloating gulp of wine without a single flinch. James cackles and laughs, loud and manic. Regulus is truly full of surprises. He never imagined he'd see the usually uptight doctor doing something like this, and doing it with such ease. It's clearly not the first time he's drunk wine from the bottle in public. "You'll never cease to amaze me, Dr. Black." Yeah. Ryder waves a hand lazily. "Finish your water, Potter, and maybe I'll share some more of this with you." James just stares as Regulus smugly continues to drink the wine from the bottle in an action filled with such ease, it's as if he's drinking water from a container. James watches, focus impenetrable, as Regulus's thin throat bobs and waves as he drinks, his Adam apple rippling beneath the tight skin. He looks at Regulus's curls, so perfect and fitting on his head, curling around his ears and laying gently on his forehead. He wants to run his fingers through it, wants to curl his hands around Regulus's neck and feel the strong pulse beneath the skin. He wants to leave a mark on his lips on every inch on the skin he can't see. "Raj?" The younger man looks at him. "Yes?" James takes a breath, short and punched. Before he can stop himself, he's surging forward, hands desperately but gently cupping Regulus' cheek and smashing their lips together. Regulus gasps against his mouth, but barely takes a moment to catch up and quickly kissing back. Slowing together, lips moving in sync, James's body feels like it's on fire. His veins are buzzing like live wires, his skin sensitive beneath his clothes. Everything suddenly feels so tight, so constricting apart from the weight of the body pressed against him. He wants to do this forever. He wants to hold Regulus against him, feel the rush through his body as they kiss and moan into each other's mouths. It feels addicting, and James is already craving it like a starved man. He doesn't want to stop, and when Regulus runs his tongue against the roof of his mouth slowly, James can't help but let out a deep groan. Regulus pulls back first, but only enough that their foreheads are still pressed together. James's neck craned down and Regulus is stretched up. They're both panting, and James's lips feel hot and swollen. "Come back to mine," James breathes, the words coming out in a rushed, desperate demand. "Okay." Grace nods. "Yeah, okay." James grins, letting his hands drop from Regulus's face and winding them around his shoulders instead. "Phone a taxi." Regulus says, "I don't think either of us will be able to wait for a train." "Oh, yes. I like the sound of that," James murmurs, stealing another kiss before pulling out his phone. They finish the wine while they wait, and James feels the familiar pleasant buzz again and when they climb into the taxi. It's then that it suddenly occurs to James that he has a roommate, and he's currently inviting Regulus back to their flat to hopefully rip each other's clothes off. He rushes to text Sirius. "James, 2142. Are you home? You okay?" James looks across the taxi. Regulus is so close, yet so far across the seats, looking delicious in his scarf and pea coat. James nods, feeling his cheeks heating with the sudden onslaught of thoughts about tearing the scarf around Regulus's neck and mouthing at the heat of his collarbones. "Yes, just checking we have a free flat to go back to." "You think your flatmate will be in?" "I doubt it. It's probably at Mooney's." Sirius replies in good time, considering James is barely holding back the inch to move across the seats and connect his and Regulus's mouths again. "Sirius, 2145. At Mooney's. Why?" "Sirius, 2146. Oh my fucking god, you're bringing the cute doctor home, aren't you?" "James, 2146. Neither confirming nor denying. Just do both of us a solid and don't come home tonight." Sirius 2146. Go get some prongs! Rolling his eyes, James pockets his phone before quickly unbuckling his seatbelt and sliding into the middle seat. His arm is around Reckless's shoulders before the younger man can blink. Free house confirmed, he murmurs into Reckless's ear, grinning widely when he feels the younger man's shiver against him. Reckless smirks, turning his head so the lips are brushing. Grey eyes so close, and despite it making James' vision blur, you can feel the intensity of the hooded gaze. How splendid. Regulus murders, breath hot on James's skin, and if that doesn't make James want to rip his clothes off, then when Regulus starts mouthing at the corner of James's jaw, it does. Trousers becoming uncomfortably tight, James squirms. His breath becomes slightly faster, body coiling in anticipation. Careful, Regulus whispers, raising his teeth along the lobe of James's ear. James groans softly, breathing hard. Won't want to make it obvious to the taxi man you're having a little too much fun. You're a fucking menace, Regulus Black, James hisses. Teasing isn't very nice. No, Regulus grins, nipping at his ear softly with a chuckle. But it is rather fun, don't you think? I hate you, James sighs, though it comes out shaky and choked. Ryder's laugh is low and rumbles through James like a shockwave. You can't get your own payback from what your flan. The old man teases. I dare you. The taxi takes far too long, but when it finally arrives, James just practically throws the money at the driver before shoving Reckless and himself out. He's barely got 2 feet on the pavement before he's grabbing Reckless by the collar and smashing their lips together once more. He feels like adrenaline and arousal has replaced all the blood in his system. He feels hot and sweaty, his heart racing and muscles surging with energy. Regulus laughs against him, arms wrapping around his neck and tugging at the hairs at the base of his skull. He moans into James's mouth, biting his lips between sharp teeth. He tastes like wine, sweet and sour and addicting. James walks them to the door without breaking apart, unlocking the main door with ease. It's only when they're inside and Reckless's ankles collide with the stairs and almost sends them both tumbling does the younger man push James's chest. Maybe we should stop for a moment, he pants. Alright, James whines in displeasure. Patience, Potter. I don't fancy being undressed in the hallway for all to see. Rose replies, it's not for everyone's pleasure. Right, James croaks. He swallows thickly, nodding frantically and desperately trying to gather some form of clear thought. You're right. Yeah, we should go. We should. Let's go, Potter. Ragnar grabs his hand, leading them up the stairs faster than James has ever seen the young man move. James can barely remember to keep one foot in front of the other, as his eyes are practically glued to the clothed ass in front of him. Ragnar's trousers really are perfect in a sense that they show off everything. When they get to James's floor, he practically throws himself to unlocking it. Reyes takes the moment to teasingly run his fingers over his shoulders, tracing back down and feeling incredibly distracting. Regulus, has anyone ever taught you that you're an absolute menace? Rose hums, bowing softly into James's coat, covered shoulder before murmuring, maybe once or twice. James swings the door open, turning enough to grab Regulus as he steps inside. Their lips are connected and desperate, hungry heat before James has even got the door closed behind him. Regulus kisses him with more gusto and drive than before, hot and mingling. Suddenly, Regulus moves the kiss along his jaw, moving down his neck as he pushes James gently against the closed front door. James lets him, going easily as his body feels as if it's being set on fire everywhere where his lips and hands travel. Okay, I think that's a good point to stop that scene. One scene later. Holy shit. James heaves, lungs burning. Regulus laughs beside him, a low rumble. James looks out of the corner of his eye to see Regulus run a hand through his hair. That was incredible, James adds, because really, it fucking was. It has never been that good. And he feels a whole kind of different drunk now. Holy shit. Yeah, Rose breathes beside him. Holy shit again. Indeed. James feels giddy, every muscle in his body aches, but holy fuck, does he feel good. Do you want a cigarette? James swiffles his head, still trying to catch his breath. What? Regulus looks at him. His cheeks are still flushed, and he's still got his shirt on and unbuttoned, showing off the glint of sweat on his pale chest. Did I not speak English? You smoke? Sometimes. Ryan shrugs. Mostly when I drink. Nothing beats cigarette after sex, though. James blinks in surprise. But you're a doctor. Thank you for reminding me. Yeah, Regulus sighs. You aware of how many healthcare professionals smoke despite the health issues it entails? James thinks for a moment. He then nods solidly. Valid point. Lovely. Glad we got that clarified. Rose huffs. So, I ask again. Cigarette? You got some because I don't think there's any here. Got some in my coat pocket. Rose nods. Can I borrow a top? The only one is this one is slightly sweaty now. James grins in satisfaction. Top drawer of the dresser. I'll grab some shorts too. He grabs two from the wardrobe, slipping the first pair on and turning around in time to see Regulus's bare back and shoulders as the man swiftly strips the shirt and slips on a grey cotton long sleeve. James almost trips on his own feet as he drinks in the brief sight of the narrow stretch of his shoulders and the skin of his back milky white, smooth and covered in littering of freckles. His eyes quickly travel down, catching a glimpse of a pinched tight waist that James wants to wrap his hands around as fast as he can. The moment is gone when Regulus turns around, but James's brain still can't quite catch up with what's happened. His eyes finally fleck up and meet the grey eyes across the room. He sees Regulus' face, sly and knowing. The guy knows exactly what he's caused inside James's head. Enjoying the view? He asks. James opens his mouth to answer, but nothing manages to come out. Regulus laughs softly, then folds his hands up. Come on, he says. Give me them. I want to smoke. James tosses the shorts across the room when Regulus slips them on. They barely stay up even after Regulus tightens the drawstring, leaving them hanging loose on his hips as he leaves the room. James practically runs to follow him, and when Regulus has retrieved the box and a lighter from his coat pocket, he leads them both to sit by the large window in the living room. They smoke in silence for a few minutes, both of them basking in the serenity of the moment. James allows the cigarette to relax him again, leaning against the wall, and glancing at the other meal across from him. Regulus has his eyes closed, head resting back against the wall, to slightly stretch his neck. He looks so tranquil, dark curls slightly damp on his forehead, his bow lips still red from all the kissing, cheekbones more defined by the shadows of the dim studio loft. James can't decide if he wants to color him or rip his clothes off again. Preferably, he'd like to do both multiple times again. Has anyone ever taught you that you have a slutty waist? Regulus's eyes snap open and he looks at James incredulously. What? You have a slutty waist, James repeats. You know that? You are. No, what? James chuckles. Regulus's cheeks are practically glowing and he is looking at James like he's grown a second head. But the older man doesn't care. Speechless, Regulus blinks a few times, so fast he looks like he's merely fluttering his eyelashes. In shock, I think. Well, James shrugs, taking a drag. You deserve to know. Wasn't that where I had a waist? Regulus murmurs in between intakes, exhaling smoke as he speaks. I've always been taught I have a beanpole kind of figure. You do. You are quite skinny, almost alarmingly so, but you have got a lovely waist. Regulus smiles, tilting his head. Slow one. James nods, smug. A slutty one. Regulus hums, eyes intense as they stare at James with a daring kind of tease. What makes it so slutty? The fact that you just looking at it makes me want to bend you over that table. Regulus's eyes widen and he lets out a shaky breath. James smiles, stomach already pooling with heat again as he brings the cigarette to his lips to distract himself from the temptation to grab Regulus by the neck and mark any skin he can get his lips on. Finish your cigarette, Paula. Regulus grunts, flicking his own dead butt out the window quickly. He stands up abruptly, already walking back to the bedroom as he calls, I'll show you what else this slutty waist can do. James tosses the cigarette immediately. Regulus has barely made it past the bedroom threshold before James is running in and tossing them both back on the bedsheets. James wakes slowly, but then the slight pounding in his temples makes itself known. Fuck, he hates wine so much. He hasn't drunk that much since its graduation over a year ago, and with good reason. Too much wine makes his head feel like it's filled with loose and rattling marbles, using his skull as a soundboard. Groaning, he stretches so his back pops and shoves his face deeper into the pillow. Last night comes back to him in a tidal wave and, face hidden still, a smile curls around his lips. Regulus. James rolls over, hand reaching out the other side of the bed, expecting to feel a warm body wrapped in sheets. His hand meets nothing but cold mattress. His eyes snap open. He finds the other side of the bed empty. He pulls himself into a sitting position, body disgruntled by the sudden movement. He listens, waiting for the familiar sound of the toilet flushing or the shower being on in case Regulus is in there. He's met with total silence. Reg, he calls, climbing out of bed. He swipes a pair of boxes from the drawer, stumbling out of the room on unsteadily, slightly wine-drunk legs. Regulus isn't in the lounge, or the kitchen, or by the window smoking. The flat around James is empty. And that's that. Fuck. Uh, yeah. Hope you enjoyed that. Sorry for the best, um, not really good cut, but that wasn't really a good place to stop, and that was some good dialogue and so that I found kind of funny. So this is what it had to be. Um, yeah, I hope you enjoyed. I hope this is within terms and conditions. I don't know those one by heart, so I hope this video doesn't get pulled down. I don't think so, but you never know.